This is how long you gotta want to do things. I know we need to bring in next time. It's like, take a little more often. And the big thing was, it just fell together. I mean, I think it sounds. It sounds like it's the best we're gonna get. I was happy with it. I think most people will too once they adjust to it. I think. Yeah, it's like. Maybe I was glad that you were able to go. Well, because I was happy to do it. We did ask her what her name is. I want to say Hall, but that's not it. She was the president, but she kept talking about different things, and I said, do you have a picture or can you show me something visual so I can actually see what you're talking about? So I'm a very visual person. And but she showed me it was like, yeah, well, like what they have through Fairview or Fairway. Or I haven't been there for a year. Okay. I mean, I don't go that direction. I go, because sometimes I go that way. Yeah. But I'm assuming it's the same thing. Yeah, that's what she said. And it was just, yeah. I'm still I am visual. Yeah. I'm still on Casey's. That one actually works. This will be grumpy people going to work in the morning. Yeah, lots of people in and out. So that makes me a little. Yeah, but. It was like, but like the other guy, John, a good way or bad? Oh, good, but yeah, all you guys can be meetings. Yeah. That's yeah, you really know that. I didn't. Knowing what little I knew. I mean, in terms of the interaction between the two. It was not good for a while. Hi, Brian. Hi. Good. No wheel. Mm.
That's good.
It's such a positive thing.
Please do dinner for me. I didn't eat grocery store.
Oh, yeah, they got good stuff.
Yeah. it does.
As you call the meeting to order, you guys join me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, moving on, we have no commissions or public comments. Or do we have public comment? Yes, and I don't know. Moving on to the consent agenda, is there anything that you wanted to discuss on the consent agenda?
No, everything's pretty standard. We do have our first pay request, from Urban Built Contractors on our sewer project, which has been reviewed by PDG.
Would entertain a motion?
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Been moved and second to approve the consent agenda as presented. Any further discussion? Not done.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion passed 5-0. Moving on to old business, the 717 Iowa Street sewer easement. So, Sheila,
I'm Mr. Euler.
I thought so.
How are you folks? And I appreciate you hearing me tonight. Thank you. Took this up at your last regular meeting. And then I was involved with it prior to that meeting, but couldn't make it because I had something else going on. I've been assisting the seller, Mr. Horner, in attempting to satisfy what I think are some title requirements that the lender has made. I've discussed these with Mr. Delaney and he with the rest of the administrative staff of the city. I think that all of them are acceptable or have been discussed fully, save the requirement, an endorsement that says that the city is responsible for any damage to the buildings in the event you have to exercise its, you have to get under there to do something on your easement. I talked at length with Andy, and I think he would, who I call the city superintendent, that's like your water and sewer person. And he says that the lines are 10 foot deep, maybe, and that they're also new, and there's little concern from those folks about the necessity to go in there and do anything with those lines absent some sort of event, a disaster event, which would cause the line to break. So based on that, Andy and I kind of visited, and he said, and I agree, that really, I think what you would see is the only time there would be damages in the event the line ruptured and caused damage to the easement as a whole, which case would be covered by your insurance. So I want to try to resolve this issue, and I think I came here to answer questions and see if we can get something figured out.
I mean, do you have something in writing on how you would like it to look?
So I think this is not my statement, it's a statement of the underwriter that says that the city was responsible for damage to the buildings in the event that the exercise was right under the easements caused damage. So I think what they want you to say in there is that the easement would say that if the city has to go in there, take out a building to make a repair to its structure, then you would be responsible for the replacement of that. Now, that said, what I understand is that the line is new, it's 10 foot deep, so there's in all probability no event other than a natural disaster, which would cause the city to have to go in there and make the change.
And this was discussed last time, right? I mean, this exact same thing?
Yeah, I think
Or-
so, but I wasn't privy to it. I told the owner to heal it if he could. And I don't know what happened at the last meeting, so
And Mr. Horner, is that it?
yes, ma'am.
He also told us what each one of those individual buildings cost, which was not cheap.
Well, I don't doubt that.
So in the
That's great. I didn't hear that part. Did you say, you know what that was?
was it 25,000?
Can't be for one of them. Cause I think, is there 5 storage units that are in question?
Right.
Well, we could go back on the tape and listen. But in case of a disaster,
Yeah, it's, and.
So a disaster for you would be, where your sewer line breaks.
that's what I'm talking
Right.
about.
It's not, in all probability, it would not impact all of them. I've seen how it lays through there and it kind of cuts through there. It looks to me like it affected 2 of the units.
You know, did he not have this surveyed or anything when he?
Oh, I think it's all been surveyed. I think
Well,
it's
then-
surveyed.
This shouldn't be an aha moment for him.
There shouldn't be an aha moment for any of us because
Well,
it's your,
but he was aware then that the sewer line was there.
you presume that he was.
I'm not presuming anything. He's coming to us now saying what's there. And this is the main sewer line for the entire city.
I think it's half, maybe. I don't know. Yeah.
Went over this all over again.
I'm interested in changing. It's hard telling what the storage units would even cost, say in 30 years when we might have a problem. I'd get triple. It's,
Yeah, that's my question is, I mean, because I wasn't here at the last meeting,
Right.
but it doesn't sound like there was anything new brought to us that would be.
No, look,
To make
I'm
a
here to
change.
try to figure it out. I mean,
Yeah.
if we want to have a frank conversation and it's something that shouldn't have happened. If we're gonna lay blame, let's lay some of it at the city's feet. You've got somebody who approves a building permit. And yet, when you approve the building permit, you don't know where your easements are. Now, this guy builds a storage unit, you can say that if you choose, but he now builds on this property. And, your easement's there. Nobody identified it when they approved the building permit. And I don't want to cast blame, what I want to do is resolve the issue. I get it's not pleasant. I mean, it's not pleasant for him, it's not pleasant for you. I understand that fully. And so what do we do? I mean, he's bought this property, he's built on it, he's got a permit from you folks. And now he wants to sell it and he can't. So it renders his property valueless. That's not, it's not his fault, it's not your fault, it's everybody's fault. That's what this is everybody's fault. So what I'm trying to do is figure out some mechanism so we can resolve this issue.
lower the price of the building by the affected units and sell it.
So there's no effective units right now. Right,
There's affected units that are in question that could be.
Potential.
I mean, that's just me. I mean, that's the only thing I can recommend because it's very standard practice for people to actually move sewer lines when they're doing a project at this scale so that this doesn't happen. So there's nothing illegal saying that you can't build a building on a sewer line, but you're accepting liability of anything that happens later. And that's why a lot of people, if they build schools, they front it to actually move the line so you don't get into these problems. And it was a choice that was made, and
so I've represented cities for a long time. And I've done this. And every time the municipalities that I represent have notified the person, have been actively involved in something of this magnitude. You can't act surprised. Because it's a substantial construction. And you can't say he should have known. You should have known.
And I'll agree with that.
Right.
It's one of the last meeting, I actually did say that.
So
If we have anything
Right.
need to change to make sure that this doesn't happen again, I think we should absolutely make sure that that happens.
And I'll say I've been in city management for 17 years. I've seen cities that do go through an active process of doing a title search and doing those things, and I've seen cities that don't. Before this incident, I wasn't familiar with what our process was, but it's certainly not the city's obligation to go through that process.
I'm not saying that it is. I'm saying that if you're an active city and you're paying attention to your asset, which is your easement, so this affects you just as bad as it does him. He's got a building on top of your sewer line. So don't make any agreement with him. Now, what do you do if you have to go in? What's your easement say? What's your easement say? You take this building out.
What you gotta do to replace the line, right?
So then you stand the building, and that when you stand to pay for it.
Well, we wouldn't have to pay for it if they built on our city easement.
You know, with all due respect, she has 17 years. And I have over 20 years of city politics, both here and in Johnson County, which that doesn't mean anything. So you have years of people serving in different cities, different counties. And in other words, I guess what I'm trying to say is we didn't just fall off a turnip truck.
I don't.
And I know that's not what you're saying. You are here to serve and do your due diligence for your client. But we've tackled, whether it be here or other cities, situations like this or similar to this. And we also know what we're doing as well as you know what you're doing. That's why we were elected.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree with any of that. What I'm trying to do.
So what I'm saying is that negative remarks are not going to go well with us. And I appreciate what you're saying, and I certainly appreciate you defending your client, but I'm not changing my mind.
So I'm not certain that I made it negative, to be very candid. If I said something that was negative, you would know that I said something negative, and it's during our conversation right here. I don't think that I've said anything negative. I'm talking as straight as I can. And I don't mean to offend you, and if you take offense, I don't know what to tell you about that, because I'm not saying
Well, we'll
anything
just move on from there.
that anything that I intended to offend anybody. What I'm saying is this: there's a problem that there's probably no place to lay all blame, and that there has to be a solution. This is probably the one time for you of this situation, and I will be candid. If it's my main line sewer, I know my guy knows right where it is. My person that does my building permit knows right where it is, and when that guy's out there building something on it, my city supervisor's out there saying, I don't know what you think you're building here, but you better come back down. Now, that didn't happen. And now he's got an asset that he can't sell. And I don't want to lay blame to anybody. What I want to try to do is find some way to figure it out. And if there's no way to figure it out, if that's what you're saying, which is what I hear, that's a little odd to me for city governance. But if that's your position, I mean, that's your position.
I mean, the way I see it, the amount of details that would have to be worked out if we were interested in doing any changing, even like I said, this was discussed last time. This would be something that you and our city attorney and our city administrator and perhaps even our guy, we need to sit down and talk. But to think that we're gonna hash out
No,
minor details, and I'm not saying that we are gonna change, because right now it seems like the commission is not interested in changing the decision that was made 2 weeks ago.
there is no need for me to spend 1 minute trying to reach a resolution. This governing body is not interested in the resolution. That's why I'm here tonight. There's no need for, I can draw up the best plan in the world. And if you don't want to see it, you don't want to see it. That's why I'm here tonight. If somebody says to me, we're amenable to this, see what you can put together, then I'm good with that. Then I can work to put something together. But if you say to me, this is where we're at, and that's where you're at.
Brad, in the last meeting, did you say the sewer line can be moved around these buildings? It broke up when I asked this question last time.
I believe that moving the sewer line would be difficult, given the fact that we're up against Sea Railroad right away as well. And so I think that'd be the difficulty that we're in, so we really have nowhere to move at this point. I think that, like I said, I think it's, what is it, the last time I believe it's, but we're also up against our road right away, which is just hard to work with them sometimes, so. And so that's one of the difficulties that we have here as well.
Thank you.
Well, last time it was discussed that the city would make every effort to not affect the buildings that are there. If there was a leak, a cracked line or something, that we could reline the pipe with methods that are available
Right.
today. That's what we would pursue.
Right.
And then Andy, I think, wrote up, I don't know if he issued that out or anybody or just us, but that the city would be agreeable to minimize any impact of those buildings.
Correct.
To repair our line.
Correct.
I'm not an expert on putting pipe in the ground that.
Well, I think they
might rupture the line.
line.
We could. They'd make big holes on either side and do a horizontal bore through there, with a line of ground. I think the city would be willing, speaking for myself, we would be willing to an agreement to minimize any damage to those buildings to try to correct any problem with those lines that would come up. But I'm not in agreement to give up our easement or.
No, I'm not.
responsibility.
I would tell you to, I would tell you
But we repairing the buildings if we have to dig a hole underneath one of it.
Or repairing the buildings, I agree. Geez, no more buildings.
I'm here for any questions if you have anything for me.
So the sewer is like 10-15.
Yeah, that's correct, right around that.
West side.
That's correct. And that is a 12-inch sewer, I believe, off the top of my head, I believe it's.
There's one manhole there.
I think there's a few that go through that property, I think there's only one on that property, if I'm not mistaken, yeah.
Looked to be like 1/4 of one building that.
Yeah, it kind of a corner of one building, it runs underneath a couple of others, it kind of affects, I think, we are a sewer supervisor, thought maybe 5 buildings, under corners, not all the way underneath the building. Right. Things like that, yes. A couple that were underneath the buildings, a few corners, I think is what we were talking about. It's difficult to locate as of right now because the buildings kind of hinder that for us, but that's the communication that I received.
So. If you don't want to go forward, then I said my piece, so to speak. If you're satisfied with where you're at, then you're satisfied with where you're at.
So comfortable with us last week.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Thank you for coming.
Oh, yes.
Okay, moving on to new business, ordinance number 2124, establishing the Parks and Rec Advisory Board, and since Coach Jasper is about to practice. Give that to you, Wendy.
Yeah, so this is something that Stacy and I have been discussing for a while. With the Parks and Recreation being such a big part of the commission's directives on how to spend some of our public funds, and then also having the sales tax that was passed by citizens to help fund recreation. We had talked about having an advisory board, much like we do with other initiatives of the city, and we just established the housing one. Of course, we have planning and zoning boards and other boards like that, and most cities do have a Parks and Rec board. If they do have a Parks and Rec department. And so we talked about, you know, if that board were to exist, you know, what would it look like? And this would really be, you know, a lot of Parks and Rec is done on volunteer hours. If you look at like Halloween time, I don't recall the number that Stacy gave me. I just off the top of her head of the number of hours that are volunteered during Halloween for all the different PNR events, and then, you know, throughout the entire year. There are a lot of people that are dedicated to our parks facilities and also our recreation programming that are already involved a lot in what they're doing and would like to be more involved. I know that Stacy's had those conversations with folks as well. And so this ordinance would create a Parks and Rec Advisory Board of 7 members, with at least 4 of the members would be residents of Hiawatha, and then at least 1 being a resident of the surrounding communities. So because we do serve, you know, such a large area with our Parks and Rec, and because it is also funded through sales tax, which, you know, we have folks from the entire area that come in and purchase things here in the city limits. We thought that it would be good to allow for someone outside of that's maybe not a resident, maybe could even be a business owner in the community, but not a resident, that sort of thing. And so this board, they would meet at least quarterly or more often if they choose to. This would be to kind of, now that we've got a CIP, help kind of direct some of that CIP spending, give advice and recommendations to the city commission, do kind of some of the legwork as far as researching various things and helping come up with, you know, ways to fund certain things. Maybe they help, you know, if they've got expertise in, you know, out-of-state funding or grants or that kind of thing. You know, just bring more resources to the table to really help make our Parks and Recreation as successful as it can be. So we would ask that you approve this ordinance, and we can begin advertising for the positions. What we would do is probably just do a Facebook post, letting folks know that they can apply. Just let us know what they're interested, and then those would obviously come to the commission for appointment.
Sounds like a great idea.
Help Stacy a lot too, do a lot of labor. I make a motion that we adopt ordinance number 2124, establishing the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt ordinance number 2124. Any further discussion? Not none.
All in favor? All opposed?
Motion passed 5-0. Okay, moving on to communications.
Just 3 items on communications. One is just kind of bringing up a thought with you all and kind of getting some initial thoughts from you, not anything that we would move on anytime soon. But just something that I kind of noticed was maybe a little bit different, done differently in Hiawatha than most communities in Kansas and life-size communities. We have, I don't recall what the number was of documented or licensed trash haulers in our community, but there's a lot. And that means that all of those licensed haulers are driving up and down our streets and our alleys, and that's a lot of wear and tear on some really important infrastructure in our city. Most cities, if they don't do their own trash service for residential, they have a contract that they bid out annually. And you say whoever, you know, is given the bid, that's who provides the residential trash service, and then that is billed on the utility bill. Big downside for the city and city staff is you get all the trash complaints then when things aren't picked up. And people, you know, you're charging citizens for that trash service. So it's not really that popular, obviously. You'll notice in Portland, that's what they do in Portland. They have, you know, the same trash bins. I mean, much more uniform. You know that everyone's trash is getting picked up. That is an ongoing code enforcement issue that we have, where people have trash just piled up. Maybe they don't have a contracted trash hauler, or maybe they haul it themselves. And it doesn't get done as often as it probably needs to. We do have an ordinance that we can enforce that says you can't have just, you know, a bunch of trash sitting out. But it's much easier to manage that, when it's billed out on your utility bill and we have a contracted hauler. Some of the potential issues with that is one, I mean, people are not. Some people will like it, some people will not. And then I know that there's a lot of haulers that we have locally that they pay, like people pay it a year in advance, then they get a pretty substantial discount. So we'll have folks that have already paid for a year and at varying different times. And so it's a hard thing to time. So I think it's something that if we want to think about it, and try to put something together, then we need to give ourselves ample time to notify citizens that it's coming and, you know, make sure that people are not out on their, you know, having already paid for a service that they can no longer use. So I just kind of want to, you know, if it's something that you all are interested in, we have had a lot of discussions about trying to clean things up, and I think it certainly makes a community look cleaner. Particularly just having the uniform trash containers. When I was at Atchison, we didn't have those initially. We hauled our own trash, but we didn't have them initially, and it made such a huge difference. Saying, no, you're gonna use this card, and it really cleans up your community. So I guess I just like maybe some feedback if that's anything that you all are interested in to looking into further. And, you know, I would like to coordinate it so that, you know, we can adopt an ordinance and have ample time for, you know, and I don't know what that period is, if we're looking at 6 months, 9 months, whatever, to make sure that, you know, as many people as possible are able to not be having money on trash falling that they already.
Well, I've always been concerned about trash trucks driving down alleys because we don't maintain alleys and they get all tore up and people complain and they just get worse. And so, and I think some years back, I think Mayor Bill asked for input from the resident, from our townspeople if they would be willing to put their trash up front. I don't remember how he did it, but then the consensus was they liked it like it was, having trucks go down the alleys, and that's where it stayed. But
so the other side of that too is if we have a contract with a hauler, we can say like, this is the route that we want you to take. You know, so I mean, it would be an easier way to manage, you know, our service transportation, right? If we can say, okay, well, maybe even managing that, okay, maybe we do these alleys because trash has to get picked up in the alley, you know, maybe there isn't any front access. So that would give us a little bit more ability to manage that sort of thing as well.
Is there a possibility that it would cost a little less as far as if you're having to bid out? I mean, is there a chance that my trash service would go down?
Potentially. I mean, I don't know, you know, who the least expensive trash service is. Obviously, in economy of scale, you know, you look at, you know, if you're picking up everything in the area, you would think that it would be less expensive, but you know, it just depends who you are. I mean, I've never seen trash pickup not be based on the low bid. But you know, there could be, if there's issues with the vendor or something like that, obviously it's something that you look at, but typically it's the low bid, so it's going to be the one that's going to be able to provide it at the lowest cost.
Well, I think I like the idea, but I maybe have one little trash bag a week. Therefore, my trash service is so cheap because they know that I don't have anything, where my neighbors have 3 or 4 plus their big tub or barrel, whatever you call it, because they have a family, you know, so I don't want to pay a minimum. You know, there's a lot of single people in town. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
I'm not really willing to add to anybody else's utility bill anytime soon.
Well, I have to agree with that too, because. And, you know, it's gonna keep. You know, we have to raise utilities yearly instead of every 8 years. Have it be enormous.
I mean, is it gonna be considered an increase if you're required to have trash service? I mean, so it's just a question of who you're paying that money to. And so that's my question, if there were any way that it could be cheaper, then I'm all for at least, I mean, it can't hurt just to look, I'm not saying we're gonna do anything. But Tony, I think you have a legit point as well, I mean, you compared to a family of 6 with growing teenagers, there's gonna be a significant difference, so.
Then you got so many other companies too that come to town. I mean, that's gonna cut into their hauling too, you know, if we just have one company. But then you've got all the other companies that rely on, you know, pickup each month, so.
I do like protecting our streets a little more though,
Yeah, oh yeah.
so. So in other words, we don't know.
Yeah, I know on my little street. I have 3 different, on Tuesdays, I have 3 different. Trash trucks. They go up and then they go down the other side.
What does that do for apartments? Like if everybody has their own water bill, but there's a dumpster outside and everybody's using the same one, then you're tacking on 25.
I think if you're using the same one, it's typically considered commercial trash, and we don't have the ability to contract commercial trash. That's. But there are dumpsters too. I mean, you can do dumpsters for residential as well. So it's still by but once it gets to a certain size, I think that changes to not falling under a residential contract.
I mean,
You gotta think about the company too, if they're gonna get, you know, dumpsters and stuff, and then you got the cost of all the, you know, the dumpsters for the company that's gonna have to purchase it.
And see.
And plus you gotta have the storage.
well, like I said, we're not saying we're doing
Yeah.
it tomorrow.
Maybe we could table this and.
Oh, yeah, I'm not looking for an
Yeah.
answer. I'm just looking for what kind of willingness there might be to entertain this and kind of, I guess, bringing up my primary concern is streets. I mean, we have an issue with our streets. Our streets are not at the quality that anyone would like to see them at. Streets are incredibly expensive, and we have multiple haulers driving on streets and alleys, and they're not incurring that cost, you know. Our citizens are, but they're not seeing it on the trash bill.
So I'm never opposed to getting more information.
Yeah.
Next item, First Street signals. We had a really productive meeting with KDOT last week regarding the First Street corridor. You know, this has been I guess, semi-contentious issue with KDOT on removing the signals at Isle in Oregon. They've been adamant they're not warranted. They need to go. Our area engineer has repeatedly contacted Brad and said, when are we taking these out? And so we kind of got in touch with KDOT and, you know, explained we're not like, we're not signal huggers, right? Like we just don't want signals for the sake of signals. But just as these signals are not warranted by current traffic standards and traffic counts, 4 lanes of traffic are also not warranted. You know, there used to be a lot more traffic there than there is now. And there's a real safety concern when you've got, you know, your school crossings and, you know, pedestrians and children. I mean, you've got your schools and your community center and your pool all on one side of the highway. And, you know, so we kind of talked about if there was a way to make that corridor safer, we certainly wouldn't be opposed to, you know, having some sort of other kind of traffic control at those intersections. So what we had kind of discussed was going to what they call a twiddle, which would be a two-way, one lane each way, and then a turn lane, that goes through the length of the corridor. They have this currently in Fairview, and I think that transition has gone pretty well. It makes it feel like it's not a 4-lane highway. It makes it feel like you're going through a community. There's some speed issues too that I think can get a little bit confusing in that corridor as well. Because you know it's 40 and then like another, I don't know how many feet ahead it says 40 again, and then changes 30 like immediately after that. So I think that there's some speed limit coordination that we're going to have to adjust to within that corridor that will also help. And then there's also more updated school signage that we can get. And it's just a matter of KDOT does a bid each year at the beginning of the year, and they'll just give us the signs to put up. So I don't know if you've seen like the neon colored school signs, those are much more visible, you know, draw a lot more attention. So there's certainly things that we can do to make that a safer corridor. Also by what they call it a road diet, by doing a road diet and agreeing to that, it can help us with funding for future grant funds. There's safe routes to schools funds, there's transportation enhancement funds, and substantial amount of funds that KDOT offers that could help us put in pedestrian facilities or, you know, put street trees in, things like that, that make it feel like a more of a community than, you know, just an open rural highway. So we talked about, they've already led a seal project, which we could be included in. So that would be starting in probably late spring. So they would go through and whenever they get to the seal, they'll seal the street, and then you've got to wait like at least a month or two before you put in the striping on the road, because you want it to like set. But then we would go to that new striping of the 2 lanes and the center lane. There's probably things that we'll need to look at, not probably, there are things that we're going to need to look at as far as what kind of signalization we want at school crossings. Where do we want people to cross? Do we keep it at Longfellow, or, you know, how do you want that to look? So there'll be some discussions back and forth with KDOT on how that all looks, and they'll look to you all for some feedback on that. And then we would expect that by school beginning next year, that we would have all the full corridor done. Now, because it's a seal and not a mill and overlay, you can have some issues with the paint adhering. It's not as clean and crisp as it is when you have mill and overlay. But KDOT has said we will come in and fix anything that needs fixed, and we know that that's going to be something that's going to be needed, and they'll definitely, you know, make sure that they're committed to making sure it's a quality project. So we felt like it was a really good meeting. I think we finally have gotten to a place where we're agreeing with KDOT and us are agreeing, and they're not saying take out your signals yesterday. So there will be a transition period on the signals. Eventually we'll be going to the Iowa signal will have the red and yellow flashing like Oregon, and then eventually they'll get pulled out and we'll do the change in layout of the road and move forward. So,
And then are they doing a speed study soon, or?
yes, they're looking at doing a speed study this winter, so that we've got that data and results for the upcoming project, just, you know, to see how that might impact what that speed limit is through the corridor. They have said, you know, it's not going to go any lower than 30, which I don't think is our expectation, you know, but there may be adjustments to that 40 zone. We don't know. But yeah, they need the speed study to confirm any sort of change in speed in the corridor.
Would we still leave the poles up for the street light that's at the top? So we have lights at the intersection, or is the state, is that their?
It forced us to take the poles down. I mean, it was getting-
Yeah, I mean, I think that earlier this spring, I believe that we had actually got them to agree to let us keep those up. So we keep our intersection lights there. We just take the horizontal lights and all the hardware and all that stuff to come off. But other than that, I think the intersection lights would stay there.
I've been doing some looking on this. I have some concerns. I feel like it's gonna help flow north and south, but east and west, it's gonna really bottleneck trying to get out from the school. Because it's diverting traffic to that closer lane. And the turning lane will be in the middle. And so all traffic is going right in front of where people are trying to get out from the school. So that's gonna be my concern with that. North and south, it's gonna help things go, but leaving the school, it's gonna be a problem.
How's it gonna be different than now though? I mean, we're still,
Because your turning lane's in the middle,
right,
and then all your through traffic is going right to where against the curb. So when do you turn right or left? When nobody's in the lane closest to you. When all the traffic is going into that lane right next to you, that creates double the traffic almost. Yes, turning left from the center lane is going to be very nice north and south, but leaving the school, it's gonna be a problem. And Fairview doesn't have this type of situation, so it works out very well. Wathena has the same thing, which it's I'm not saying yes or no, but it needs to be thought about that it's going to make a bottleneck leaving the school. They just don't have the traffic that we do during those school hours.
I just don't think that we're ever gonna get stoplights.
Might not.
And that's, and Tony, you were at the last meeting as opposed to me, I don't know if that even came up, but. You know, we even tried with the governor's office and that. Crickets.
It might not be the streetlights stay, but maybe possibly we can keep 2 lanes or something. I don't know. We need to just keep it open.
2 lanes on both sides.
Kind of like it is now. Cause like I said, when you're bottlenecking, putting all the semis up against the curb. And they're trying to turn out from the school, that's not gonna be easy.
I like the idea of, I mean, cause I know how I even drive differently when I go through Fairview now, it's. You know, moved down to only 1 lane, and I think speed is a big thing with it, so. We get the same thing going here, I think that's gonna help. It's gonna be a mess no matter what, in that we can't have our stoplights, but. We gotta move past that. I don't know, but once again, it's just my opinion as well, I don't know what the rest of you think.
Be a problem, I don't know, think about it.
No, I mean,
Okay, that has any comments on that?
are you talking about like when you're in the
So the 2 lanes
one
at
going,
the stoplight will be a turning lane, and so you won't be, essentially, we're not to be driving in that lane. So all traffic will be going out to the outside next to the curves. Well, that's where everybody's sitting trying to get out, so you're doubling your through traffic into those lanes by diverting everybody on the outside. And then when you have people at east and west, that's where people are sitting, and they already have a problem getting out. Now you're funneling all the traffic right in front of them, which is gonna make it twice as hard to get out. All I can say is just look at the print and start looking at some of the intersections and how traffic moves, and you'll start visualizing that it's gonna double the amount of traffic going in right in front of where everybody's trying to get out from the school.
I would imagine the KDOT would have. An opinion on what that would look like as well, I mean, just because they're gonna have a whole lot more experience with it. And if KDOT is feeling like this would be a reasonable solution.
I mean, it
They would
was
know
this or around, so.
No,
So.
I would have to know the roundabout.
I'm thinking of that, because I don't know what happened. Good.
So I guess part of that is I'm relying on the expertise of KDOT as well, whether that's a good idea or not, I don't know.
Brian is right though, that flow of traffic was being on the outside lane instead of the inside, when you got
Mhm.
like that, it is gonna be a little bit.
And you didn't get any hint that KDOT would be willing to put a 12-mile flashing light there during school, when school lets out, just to slow down traffic even more, that you said they would go below 30.
Oh, no,
No.
they'll do 20 during school hours.
Yes.
I mean,
I
and
specifically
currently
asked
it
that.
is 20, you know, it's just.
So the
people
school
don't
zone is still
go.
out there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
and people don't drive 20 right now is the thing, so,
people don't drive 30.
right?
So then where are we at with that? I mean, is this something that when it comes down to it, KDOT's gonna do what KDOT's gonna do, or?
I mean, no, I think that it depends who you talk to at KDOT. I think that KDOT does not want to come in with the heavy hand of KDOT and say, Hiawatha, this is what you're doing. I think they want to partner on a project that, you know, makes those intersections as safe as possible. I think this is what they would like. I think they've seen this work well in other places, whether or not that's school zones. I mean, maybe my follow-up will be to get over to KDOT and say, you know, is there anywhere that you guys have made this change and it's within a school zone, and so you do have those, you know, particular times of day that are.
It's in the drawing for me.
Yeah, and they're working that, they're
I need
working
to
that.
Yeah.
I mean, because it was, you know, this was just the conversation last week, and so.
Have we looked at anything else on unlocking the road to the north? School,
We don't have any right over there.
no options at all, though.
We don't have right of way. I don't know if we abandoned it or what we did.
I
but-
believe we've abandoned it, is
Okay.
what Brad said, but is there any? Can we talk to anybody? Is there anything that we can do, is what I'm saying, you know?
I mean, we could
Help
reach out to
community
the-
out type of deal, you know?
But if I were to understand, wasn't it before they were kind of happy to cut that off because they did not like having the traffic going
Yeah.
through their.
Bruno will never, yeah, they'll never let us go back to they hated that, even when I was going to school, but there's always the possibility that you can. Hit their lot and go up towards Subway, and that should be basically, I don't know where the lines are at, if there's any city street there anymore, or if that's all been gave off or not, but. Whoever the property owner is, maybe we could work something out, and it would help.
I believe that. The road that you're talking about is right on the edge of their parking lot, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm thinking about it right, is that, am I correct with the way that I'm thinking here? And so it's kind of.
Remember they have a
southern edge of their parking
Yeah,
lot
like mine.
would go up towards the subway area, is that correct?
Yeah.
I mean, it's certainly worth, talking to Bruno about this, they would be willing to do something like that. Maybe we could work something out, but yeah, I mean, talking to them would be fine. I'm worth willing to do that.
And just see if they'd be willing to help us out at all, even if we could. And I hate to say pay that, but.
Could we even make that a one-way?
You could,
I haven't thought through this, but
yeah, you could,
way to get out,
and I believe that
it would be a wider road then.
if you, look at the team study that was done by, BG Consultants, I believe some of their, recommendations for some one-way streets in that area. I know Longfellow was one of them, but they recommended it be a one-way street going east. We could certainly look at, to see if we thought that would be beneficial to us and maybe, but that was in the team study, but. That was one of the recommendations anyway, but I think that, because it was pretty in depth with what they went through with that study that they did for us, but, we could for sure look at one-way streets in that area, see, kind of see what the impacts of those would be.
I'll follow up with KDOT on, they've got a school zone conversion example. And we'll come back with more information. Last item, I had sent an email out to commissioners about rescheduling our December 26th meeting for December 28th. So instead of Tuesday, have that on Thursday. Everyone was amenable to that. I think, with our code, we would have to have a motion, and vote on it in order to reschedule it. So, it would be same time, just on Thursday instead of the day after Christmas. We'll try and keep the agenda short.
So do you wanna make that motion, Tony?
I'll make the motion, only if we keep it short, that we switch the meeting to December 28th instead of December 26th.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to change the 26th meeting to the 28th. Any further discussion? Not done.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion passed 5-0.
And just one more add-on, the 29th, the last business day of the year, we always close at noon in order to do new year end, and so we will get information out if that's what we're doing, but that is our intention.
Um, Moving on to governing body comments. For me, I don't have any today. So, Ryan?
Do we have any updates for the street project on closing that or where we're at?
I reached out to the performance bond rep again. It's been almost 2 weeks now, because I haven't heard anything back. We got that letter that said they're not gonna exercise their right to hire a contractor to finish the job the way it was supposed to be done. But they would let us know what kind of liability they think they have essentially. And so I haven't heard anything, so I sent another email, just where you at with your investigation, do you need anything from us? I haven't heard anything back yet, so.
I think that'll be it.
Yeah, the last meeting that we had a consent agenda item about approving some additional funding for the fire truck that we're purchasing. And there was a comment made that I don't think it's correct, and it was put in the paper this way that truck was considered a brush truck, which would not be used in town as much as a regular fire truck. Well, that's not correct. That truck is a first out truck. That was indicated to us in a commission action report back in October from Becky. Since the last meeting, I reached out to Patrick, and Patrick confirmed that truck is used 99% of the time on fire run. It's an important truck that we have. We need to have one that runs that we can rely on. He carries tools, a thermal imager, the SCBA equipment, floor dry foam, and 300 gallons of water. So I just want to mention that is a first out truck. That's not something that gets used occasionally. It gets used there almost every fire run. I just want to get that out there for the public to know and the paper to know. That's all I have.
Evans?
I don't have anything this evening.
Tony?
Well, I hope everybody had a happy Thanksgiving. I sure did. I don't know if I have to have permission for this or not, but I have had, and I'll even name the people if I need to, people either call or ask me out on the street. No, they've not asked me, they've just complained about their property tax. Well, everybody seems to be blaming the city. And I would like to have your permission to either put something in the paper or on Facebook, whatever. It's not just the city's fault. We're not the only one that raised our mill levy. Do I need to have permission to do that, or can I just do it?
I mean,
After I explain to them, they say, oh, okay.
I mean, I would ask that maybe whatever you write up, you pass through.
Well, I would give it,
Yeah,
get an okay first.
I mean, are you wanting something on behalf of the city, or are you wanting to put something together?
I just think that the public should be aware that it's not just the city's fault that their property taxes went up.
it's like a letter to the editor type thing.
Sure.
You have your First Amendment rights. So I still, I mean, and you don't have to, but I still wouldn't mind having it run through, just have Becky fact check it, check it. And then- Okay, I have no problem with that.
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that.
Okay. That's all.
Okay.
City gets blamed for a lot of things that they're not. I have people ask me questions and I say, hey, go ask the county commissioners, that's county stuff.
You know, you just put them out there in public, so now they know that.
Oh, yeah. Hold me on.
Yeah, somebody's sitting with people on the.
That's all right. You all are wonderful.
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion that the city commission recess in the executive session in the conference room for a period of 10 minutes. 6:42. To discuss the matters regarding an issue of potential city personnel. The justification for closing the meeting is to discuss personnel matters of non-elected personnel. The open meeting will resume at 6:42 p.m. in the commission chamber. And to include the commissioners.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded to go into executive session. Any further discussion? Not done.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Oh. What do you think? Okay. Yeah. I mean, I would think so. I can't remember. Yeah, I don't think he was leaving. I think it's me would be a surgical system. Sales. Yes.
Greg, he's really representative, but.
What do you brought it up?
Yeah. Yes. Oh, yeah.
Maybe reach out to you sometime. I got a lot of information on what single forward
Okay.
that promotes it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, okay, yeah, I would love to, that would be great.
There's a lot of cons to it, you know, I understand that.
Yeah, I mean, there's,
Realistic for a city. It's
right, yeah, I absolutely.
and you know, but being a business.
Yeah.
Concerns about, you know, if you were to go that way.
Right, yeah.
You know, my business.
Yeah, if you want to get this, yeah, I'd love to sit down and talk about it.
I don't know what kind of schedule you have. Pretty flexible.
Okay. I like. Most of it be like this week, so, I don't know if you maybe wanna come in Wednesday.
Okay.
And you can pick just. Anytime. It's like
That offends you.
Yeah, I mean, mornings are kind of.
Money.
Okay. You wanna do like 9 o'clock?
Yeah.
Okay. They'll build you. Right.
Stop it.
That's what it sounds like.
All right, that's great, thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's easier feeling those together.
Take it under me.
It's my excitement. Ma'am, can I get your name to put in? Can I get your name to put in? Sure.
There you guys. Yeah, see, then.
You.
Yeah.
That's on YouTube.
Yeah,
You said Facebook by YouTube.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going out of newspaper, then the story, but now here. Yeah. It's good to be back to do that.
I understand.
Yeah. Your favorite. This will make this place turn down. They're all on. They're gonna make friends. Well, yeah, it's. Yeah, it sounds like a really good turnout. This
Was that your dinner you were eating?
is good. I mean, that's twice the turnout we've been having, so.
Nutritious.
Have to break out karaoke when we get back to the. That's the insane. But Jackson County from Pixel. It's not shining.
Yes, yeah, we were.
It's not shining.
Oh, yeah. Somebody there. You don't know.
It's fun because. I do it.
Exciting for her.
I mean, I want.
Not for a parent, if you like to talk. My mom spent 25 to 30 years, she knew something else. I remember she.
You know.
It was
Trouble with US before, I'm saying,
I was just saying, you have to look for that you take to that. Yeah, yeah, but it's like, that's deserved this. But one of the students, okay, thing that that is, I don't need I don't mind. I don't mind just hearing the chatter. I think it's all good, just those that.
most of theirs is on the economy. That's.
Like I say, it's been 20 years ago.
Trying doesn't pick me anything up. So she comes home, so she's working, she goes. Every time something happens, if I'm working, it's like, where are my people, where's my kids, where's my wife?
Yeah.
Because I'm better, where are my people? That's no.
Was it was friends love of us too. It's gone. It's instead of couple years to come pick it.
I mean, I know it's a kid for, I mean, it's not like
20 years.
mentioned it. I don't know.
And he sold his son. Yeah, yeah. They extended it.
Good condition still, really.
Well, he doesn't drive it. He goes, I don't know. We don't think that we have some money. So
They don't go for $200,000. Well, okay.
he gets food, it's in the car. So he drives to pick up the kids. That's what he does. You have to work and it's music. Yeah, it's like, it's not a big one. Yeah.
Will be.
That's just. Yeah.
They can look like interesting.
Insurance, did you?
I mean, I wouldn't let us too long over.
I need your name.
Does we have enough land? It's-
Katie, pardon me, Katie, C, okay, good. ATIE. Okay. ING, Teal.
Yeah.
One of those.
Good.
Thanks.
And his name.
I think I got 5 pictures. It's in the basement before.
The son took the plastic, that's, the thing was his own shop. I always remember since very much sure of that, the underdogs, this one.
Did you go get together for Thanksgiving?
We see it together, place it, yeah.
Christmas?
Was it? Yeah.
Playing to the home or down there? Or-
We're gonna do the weekend after Christmas. Made us a monumental birthday, the 28th, so. We're gonna celebrate that same.
65.
70.
He is one.
So. Yeah, it's 7. I think it was 5 years of age being a lot.
Means that holding back.
It's
Found the day away.
just.
Yeah, that's actually what I was thinking.
Which counties there should be right in that.
report together. I would love to be ready. And sometimes it's just. I do think we have to change it. It's true. Mission policy. But yeah, I think that would.
Just. We're scheduled. We're so down.
Right.
When we were closer to from home now.
Oh, I'm sure.
So cost of living is less than.
That was.
I see it here.
No, I actually, I literally wrote down the exact same. And that's totally what I was thinking about too.
At 6:46. City Commission is called back into the open meeting. The commission took no binding action during the executive session.
No, you can.
Sorry.
Yep. There a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion we adjourn this meeting.
It's been moved to second to adjourn. Dawn?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Oh, I have more fish.
Feel like we adjourned it.
Just kidding, just kidding. We always say going home tonight. You know what I mean? Computer for talking to.
Oh, yes, I did. I sent her an email. And it asked about it and, you know, it's like, I think Mayor wants to talk about it.
She sucks, never shows up.
But, well, I was like, you know, Tony has more availability, if, you know, you want